Hey folks, Steve here with another Pax Romana video covering the Greco-Persian War scenario. We will continue into our efforts to play turn one. I know the last video kind of was a bit of a false start just because we had to lay down a lot of the ground rules and how everything worked so that the things that I explained were in context for the future and all of that stuff. I think we're about there. Um, but one of my videos would not be complete without a little bit of introduction. I just wanted to call out that much like other games that I sometimes play, and I have some books that make sense to talk about. I've got a couple just quick ones I'll call out that I think would be useful for someone not familiar with the period already. If you are and you've read ancient stuff and books on ancient conflicts, then I'm really just giving you like some really introductory stuff. But for those who are a little less well read, a good one is the Greco-Persian Wars by Peter Green. Now this is a copy I had picked up from Half Price Books like 6 years ago or something, and the one problem with it was that there's a section like right around here in the book where this copy repeats like the same 40 pages over again, and so you are missing 40 to 50 pages of content. Now that's a printing mistake, right? And I don't know if other printings from how big of an issue that was for this particular printing. I suspect that newer printings are probably good to go in addressing the issue. I was so captivated in reading the book at the time several years ago that I bought the ebook so I could read the missing 40 to 50 pages. So quite an enjoyable book. It helps you understand the geography of Greece as it relates to the Greco-Persian Wars. I found it a good read. Another one, less having to do with Persia directly, I guess. Well, that's not true. There's plenty of things to think about. This would just be the Peloponnesian War by Donald Kagan. It's sort of a well-known book, I think, at this point. Or if you're interested in the Peloponnesian War, there's certainly one single volume book that gets recommended. And my copy's a little beat up because it was also picked up pre-owned. But it's a really interesting read as well. I think the Peloponnesian War is a very interesting conflict. There's other games specifically about the Peloponnesian War that are interesting. But obviously Persia cared what happened with the Peloponnesian War in terms of like geopolitical consequences and all that kind of stuff. So something to help with the flavor of the times we're talking about in this game, though at least for several turns we're kind of still before a lot of the content of those books and what they cover. But there you go, guys. Just wanted to call out some good books that I enjoyed. I enjoyed reading. I mean, they're enjoyable stuff. So if I can say it's enjoyable, I guess I'm willing to talk about it. That's a whole other matter. Do I do book reviews at some point? I don't know. Okay, so we're going to do turn one, and that begins again with the Eastern player going first. So this activation marker will be played. Just says East activation on it, nothing too fancy. It's going into the used activation markers box way up there. And then when this activation is done, the Greeks will go, and then we'll start pulling from the cup. So when you have an activation, again, before you actually play it, ordinarily you would be paying a talent to use it. We don't need to do that this time. And because we're playing the advanced game, we would be drawing a event card, but we aren't doing that on turn one. So we're not doing that on the first activation, I should say, because again, we are on step or phase 3.4 of the sequence of play. So we don't do those two things. We'll get to cards very soon. So with an activation, you basically have in the advanced game two options. You can do recruitment, which would be just like you would do in the beginning phases of a turn. You would spend talent, you would raise new units. This being turn one and the first activation, I don't really see a reason to build stuff. And so your other option is the expansion action, which allows you to take one major move and two minor moves. One minor move is basically moving one unit around or building a city or town or whatever. A major move is basically moving a stack of units on a long campaign, and you principally are going to want to do that with a leader. Now you can move leaders with minor moves. You can do all little things to move a leader very far, a far distance to get somewhere that you want them to be. Obviously, at the beginning of the game, there's a pretty straightforward set of actions that I think is worth pursuing. Um, so as I look at the map again, keeping in mind, I wish they had used a slightly different color for the Egyptian calendars or something, or change the east to a different color. I don't know. But remember, Egypt is independent. We do not control Egypt as the Eastern player, and the Eastern player comprises of both the Persian Empire in darker yellow, and technically they also control Carthage in purple over here. And weirdly enough, right, if you figure that the beginning of the turn is supposed to be 570, I don't think Cyrus actually controlled this area right here, but the game has to make some accommodations, and so we already control down here, or we will, as effectively as the turn goes on. You can assume other forces within the Persian Empire, the Achaemenid Empire, are putting this under the control of Cyrus as he takes over the Median empires or usurps the throne there. Cyrus the Great, interesting person to read about. So Cyrus is our main leader. He is really quite good. So the values on the counter, the first relates to combat. So those typically range from 1 to 4. So 3 is pretty good. Not the best, but that's pretty darn good. And then the second number is a campaign rating, which can go up to 6. And of course, he has a 6, and 6 is quite good. And he has that E on there denoting that he is an elite leader. There's nothing too special about that notation in this particular game, but in the standard game where you draw randomly for leaders, that would have some level of effect. So having such a high campaign rating means that Cyrus, when he activates a stack to go do stuff, can actually go quite far. And the way activations work in this game is that you basically roll a die, and that's how many movement points you get. So you could end up with 1 movement point. Okay, that kind of sucks, and I wish there was some other method of dealing with that. But the leaders help you get around rolling a 1, because even if Cyrus, for instance, rolled a 1, he'd still have 7 movement points, and that's enough that he could get to a lot of places and do enough things that I think they feel like they're in pretty good shape. So before I do the activation, let me change the camera angle so we get a better view of the Persian holdings here and of Asia Minor, because I think that's really where we're going to spend our first activation marker focusing on. I could, if I wanted to, choose activations to activate Carthaginian units over here. I'm perfectly capable of doing that, but I don't think I want to do that yet. I think we'll start slow and prey upon the weakened Greek position in Asia Minor, as the historical Cyrus did, right? He went into Lydia and Pontus and sort of, well, I guess technically, if I look at, yeah, I guess it's Ionia and Pontus is what he's going to be looking to clean up around here. Would like to do that. So yeah, let me change the camera up, and hopefully this should be a little easier to see for you guys. Okay, so this should look a little bit better, a little easier to see what's going on here. Okay, so we're going to take our actions, and we are going to do expansion, just because I think generally that's going to be the action that we'll be looking to take regularly. I mean, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do that most of the time. So the 2 minor moves and a major move can be done in any order. So we could do a minor move, major move, minor move. We could do 2 minors, then a major, major, 2 minors. By way of illustration, I'm going to do a minor move first, and in fact, I'm going to do something pretty straightforward and is easy to do, and I think is worth it. Cyrus, in his infinite great wisdom, understands that expanding the empire is important, but also important to develop one's existing empire. So for our minor move, we are going to do a build action. That is one of the options that we can take. So yes, construct a town. Again, the Persian Empire cannot really improve towns to cities in this scenario because they don't have heavy infantry. That's sort of the one weird consequence of the hoplite rule, hoplite rule. So we're going to build a town. Now, how do you build a town? Well, first of all, you need to spend 2 talents. So we will go ahead and do that. That brings us down. I'm going to move it off camera. The talent markers on the East player's player card, so that they have 10 talents instead of 12. So we're spending quite a bit of our treasury to do this. And then wherever we're building the town, we also have to remove a garrison. Now you can see that we do have garrisons all over the place. We could break down a light infantry elsewhere if we wanted to. Like here, we've got 3 light infantry, but it would be a separate move, minor move, to break a unit down. You have to do that as a separate action from building. So it would cost us both of our minor moves to break down an infantry and build a town in the next minor move. So it makes sense for us to choose a place where we already have a garrison sitting and hanging out. So we could be looking at areas over here, over here, over here, a couple different places we could go. Now, the thing about it is, if we put the town maybe too close to our enemy and they have the ability to attack it and take it over, then we lose a town and we give them a town, right? So like here might be an okay place because it's kind of farther away. These guys I'm not so worried about, but they're right next to this Barbarian area, and trying to remember if the Armenians are barbarians in this particular scenario. Yes, they are. So the Persians actually have to worry about guys coming out of Armenia eventually. Possibly, it's possible. So I could choose here. That's kind of on the coast. That's a little dangerous, but we have plenty of other things around that might slow down our enemy for that purpose. So I'm thinking what we probably want to do. Yeah, I think we'll do this. We're going to build it out here in Nicopolis, Nicopolis. And it's got polis in the name. It ought to be a town or a city. So we will remove this garrison, and I'll simply set it off camera here, and we will replace it with a town marker. So give me one moment to grab the appropriate counter, and we will set it there. So there we go. We now have a town in Nicopolis, however you choose to pronounce that. Now what this means is our CVPs, or our projected CVPs, will go up by one for a town. So I will increase that also on the Eastern player chart. And what that basically means is now the Eastern player is ahead of Greece, both in the geographic objective points, GOP, and the civilization value points, CVP or civ points, however you want to look at that. So they're ahead in both. So we're doing good there. Now I think I want to save the minor move for after the major move, because we could use the minor move to kind of fix or correct any major issues that go wrong with Cyrus's activation. So we'll do our major move next, and we will activate Cyrus. We'll roll a die, and we'll add 6 to it to determine how many movement points we get. So I rolled a 5. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Now, in the bottom right corner of the map is a movement points remaining chart, and it goes from 1 to 12. We've got a little marker here, movement points remaining, that we can use to denote that. So we have, again, 5 plus 6 is 11. We have 11 movement points that we can use to operate. I wasn't sure how many we were going to get, right? If I rolled a 1 and we only had 6 movement points, then I would be maybe more careful about where we go because you won't get as far. We nearly have maximum movement points. So there's a lot of different ways we could go, right? We could go, I better make sure I have the movement stuff right here. This would be one where we get something wrong. So we could go 1, 2. It costs 2 to get to a mountain fortress, and I think that's a mountain fortress space. Looks like it is. This game could have a better terrain key, to be honest, but such as it is. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and maybe we would stop there. So we could, in one fell swoop, we could move by land and kind of march our way up here and take Pontus relatively easily, I might add. It would not be very difficult. And then we would be set up where we would be hanging out over here and have the ability, very likely, to enter or to come through Ionia. Alternatively, we could go by land only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a mountain fortress again. So we can't take we can't take over all of Asia Minor in one move. We're not gonna be able to do that, but we have to think, what can we do? What's preferable? Now, there's one other option that I've been careful of pursuing because it could be quite tricky, is we could make use of this galley fleet that Cyrus has. Now, we could do naval movement without the galley, but if we include the galley with the move, it would protect us because we would be near roads, which the Greeks have a galley in, and so we could come over and try to take roads if we wanted to. But what I'm thinking we do is we spend the 1 movement point to get all of our units on ships. You don't need a counter for that. Spend a movement point to embark, and then go for free, basically, to here, and then spend, the 2 movement points. So we're effectively spending, it's like 5 or 6 getting into here, and then we actually still have 5 left to go up through here. So it's all a matter of, like, where do we think we want to go and do the most damage, I guess, to the most damage to our enemy. So tricky. Let me think on this for a couple of minutes. Knowing that I have so many movement points means I can choose to do a lot more. Now, there are other things I can do as well. I can spend some of those movement points picking up units, which I might want to do so that I have a bigger army to invade over here eventually. So it might be better to just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to pick up some units. 7, 8, 9, and I don't know, 10 to drop off more garrisons, and I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could be looking to do, and I will need to figure it out. I'll figure out everything I'm going to do, and then we'll be able to walk through it slowly as I do it for you guys for demonstration purposes. So we'll be right back. Okay, so the more I think about it, the more I think I need to use naval transport at least some of the way. At least some of the way. We're not going to do a naval invasion, like an amphibious invasion or anything, but we are going to try to do it. And I need to make sure, what I can't remember is whether or not naval interception is a thing. I think it is, but I'm not sure we're going to give the Greeks an opportunity to try to intercept in the first place, I guess, is going to be the important thing. Yeah, I don't see anything about naval interception, so I might just have to study the rules a little bit more on this. But I think the move that I'm going to do, it doesn't really matter either way. So because all of these spaces over here are occupied, and they are, let's see, they're occupied, my ports. There's this thing with naval movement where sometimes if you head into enemy territory, you can be stopped and you have to roll for continuity. But if you're transporting your units through your own territory and through your own ports, like along the coast here of Asia Minor, you really don't have a problem, as best that I can tell. And so I think what we're going to do then is, because that's a pretty safe path, let's see. Yeah, okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to, this is a good illustrative thing, I guess. So we do have here in Antioch, Cyrus, some immortals, some other regular light infantry, 2 cav, and a galley. We're going to use the galley, we're going to have the galley escort and just put the galley in a better position. So we spend 1 movement point to get on the boats. We don't need the galley to do that, but that's just part of the movement. Then we spend 1 movement point sailing anywhere that we can get to. So this would be through here, 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 here. I think I'll stop here. This is adjacent, so we kind of, we're going to keep the Greeks from being able to like sail down here too easily. Stop here, and then we spend another movement point to get off. So that's 1, 2, 3 total movement points spent. If we went by land, that would have cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're shaving off the cost. So we have 8 movement points left. I'm going to leave the galley behind, and we're going to leave it in this port of Myra. So we have 8 movement points left. Then we go here for 7. And then it would be 8, 9, or, another 2. I don't know why I said 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. No. Right, so it would be 1, 2, 3. This guy stays here. 7. Then 6 to come to this spot with the Greek heavy infantry, but you spend another movement point to actually go into an enemy space. So we would be down to 5 movement points right before the combat would actually occur, right? So 3 to get here, 4, 5, 6. Of our 11, we're down to 5. So this is our first case where we're going to conduct combat. Now, I decided to go this way because I think I could actually clean up a lot of Pontus with a minor move. Maybe not all of Pontus, but we would have a lot of it. Here, I believe I would have a pretty good chance of taking over Ionia because we already control 1, 2, 3 spaces. We already have Sardis. And so we would just need to control, let's see, the Greeks control 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think there must be another one. Yeah, they control 4. So just taking this space will give us control of Ionia, but we're going to want to clean up even more of it if we can. And I believe Samos and Lesbos and Chios are considered part of the Aegean Islands, I want to say. I have to double check that. Yeah, I'll have to double check that, but I believe that to be the case. So, yeah, so we're going to have our first potential combat now. There's the possibility that the Greeks may simply pull back, and I think I need to see how we want to do that. The problem is going to be for those Greeks that the army of Cyrus has cavalry superiority. 10.4.1 cavalry superiority exists. Yeah, supremacy if an army has 2 cavalry units and the opponent has none. So we do have cavalry superiority. So if there's a pre-battle withdrawal, which I do think the Greeks would like to do that to conserve some forces. So we're going to have a die roll. And so yes, the Greeks are going to opt to withdraw before combat. They can do this safely because they're not in home territory. We're going to roll a die, and we're going to take a -3 to that die roll because of the cavalry supremacy of Cyrus the Great's army. That will dictate how far he can go. And that is a 4 minus 3 is 1. So he can move 1 movement point, which would be enough to move back to this spot here. Now, if that occurs, the moving army does not spend the extra movement point to enter an enemy-controlled space, so we actually get a movement point back, and Cyrus lands here. Now we still have 6 movement points, so we could do that again. I think we will go ahead and do that. So we'll spend another 1, 2. And can these guys go anywhere? Well, okay, so they come here again, and once more they're going to try to withdraw. They rolled a 3. A 3 minus 3 is 0. So they fail to withdraw. There will be a combat here. So we'll have our first combat here. Let me set that up, and we'll talk about how the combat's going to go here. Okay, I'm just making sure that I did this right. Coming into Ephesus, the reason why these guys, who I moved down below, I'll move the camera in a second, they could not withdraw because they can't withdraw from Miletus, which is where Cyrus is coming from, and then they can't go anywhere else because these are all naval connections, right? They can't go here because there are Persian units in Pergamum. So in terms of Ionia, they could only go basically by sea, and you have to, if you're going to withdraw by sea, you still have to spend the movement points. So you spend 1 movement to embark, 1 movement to set sail, and 1 to debark, arrive. And so the Greeks would have had to have rolled a 6, then -3 for the cavalry superiority of Cyrus's army would have left us with 3 movement points. That would have been enough to get to here or even to Abydos. But we did not do that, right? We didn't have enough, and so that is forcing the combat. So I put one of my good old bingo chits right here just to show this is where the combat is taking place, and then I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit more, and I'm going to have the combat sort of displayed here in the middle of the Mediterranean. So we have this combat going. I'm going to double check to make sure I have the appropriate units with Cyrus. Yes, that appears to look correct. Yeah. Okay, so how do we do these combats? Well, it's a relatively straightforward process. So we already dealt with the are we going to have any withdrawals? We can't withdraw anymore. So each player is going to calculate their battle points. The Greeks have a total of 4 battle points. So you can see they have one heavy infantry that is rated for a 3 value, and 1 light infantry rated at a 1 value. So a total of 4. The Persians have more than that. They have 5 for these light infantry. They have 4 for the Immortals, the special elite unit. And then they have 1 each for the cavalry. So that is 11 to 4, I believe. Now, there's a couple different ways you can look at this in terms of calculating the odds ratios, but if I were to look at it using the chart, just because rounding, if you get bad at rounding for whatever reason, then whatever the case may be, 11 to 4 comes out to be 3 shifts. So 11 BP to 4 BP, that is 3 shifts in favor of the Persians, just for the size of the armies being a factor. And then we also calculate some additional die roll shifts. So this doesn't matter right here. I guess we would figure out the way they have the rolls set up is you figure out what the ratio is, and then you roll dice. But really, you could roll dice and then factor in the shifts to the size. I'm not sure why it really matters there. So let's roll the dice, I guess, first of all. So the first die roll, because both of my dice are the same and I can't differentiate them easily, I guess I could grab some other dice. The first die will be the Greek player. So they only rolled a 2, not great. And the Persians rolled a 4, which is quite good. Okay, so what are all the shifts? We have the 3 shifts for size. We also have cavalry supremacy as the Persians, so that's 3 more shifts, so that's 6 shifts. The leader with a higher tactical rating, well, there is only 1 leader involved, so that's his tactical ability equal to the difference between the tactical rating. Yeah, so they effectively have a 0 leader versus the 3 of Cyrus, so that's another 3 shifts. So I think it's a total of 9 shifts. We are not having combat in a mountain space, so there's nothing there. No amphibious attack, and nothing else really matters. Okay, well, he has 9 shifts, and he doesn't need to do much, so he can. Remember, so saying again, 3 due to size, 3 due to cavalry, 3 due to the leader, right? Cyrus the Great is smushing some Greek armies. So what we could do, I think this is probably the best thing to do. We're going to spend 2 of our 9 to bring their value here down to 0. Opponent's die roll down to a minimum of 0. You subtract 1, shift, one from the die roll. So it takes 2 shifts to turn this to 0. So the Greeks do nothing to the Persians. Now the Persians would be doing 40% losses here. We still have 7 shifts. We only need 6 more to bring this up to 10. And then 10 would be the percentage loss. So 10 times 10, you get 100% losses to the Greeks, right? So working out the numbers, these guys are eliminated. Sorry, you can kind of see the tripod over here, but don't ignore that. Ignore the man behind the curtain. So a light infantry and a heavy infantry are eliminated on the Greek side, which is quite a bummer for them. Let's see, is there anything else we need to really worry about? No, I think that is it. Yeah, they were completely eliminated. So that's good. Okay, so now that combat is over, right, we can continue moving if we want to. And I would at least expect that there's a very good chance that they probably would want to do that. And again, if we left Antioch, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 because of the combat. We have 4 movement points left. Four movement points left. Well, we're going to end up controlling Ionia anyway. So what I'm going to do, this is where we start getting into like advanced stuff. I am going to take one of the 5 light infantry and I'm going to break it down, right? And this is going to take me a second to do just because it's a little bit of an involved process to do this. But I'm going to break one of the 5 down to 2 garrisons. So each light infantry can become 2 garrisons. We spend a movement point to do that, so we're down to 3. But it doesn't cost us anything to leave someone behind. So what we end up with is now 4 light infantry remain at combat ready status in the stack. We spend a movement point doing that. And then we plop down one of the garrisons for free. We leave him there. And then we're going to do another 1 to come to Pergamum. And then, let's see. I think what we'll do... Bring the garrison with us. So if we're in Pergamum, it's like, do I attack here or do I attack there? Here we just smush this guy. Here we probably smush the guy also, unless he gets away. So I do wonder if garrisons can withdraw. You would think they probably could. I guess that's something I should have afforded units earlier if they, well, I guess clear the garrison, what does that really do for us? We have 2 movement points left. We go here, not come out. We go here, probably not come out. I do like the idea of endangering a crossing of the straits, so we will go here, and then we'll spend the rest of our movement points potentially going into this location. Now, they're going to try to withdraw, and they fail to do so. And so we would have a combat. This is, let's see, 1, 2, 6. I mean, this is like an overrun. Here's what the die rolls are, but you know, if it's so many shifts that basically it's a, you know, -2, and we rolled a 1, but you add 9, and we're basically using 11 shifts, and we get because it's like it's 10 to 1, so that's 10 shifts. We get 16 shifts. I don't know if there's a maximum number of shifts you can get, but we have basically the maximum number of shifts, 16 shifts, which is more than enough to completely eliminate the light infantry that was in the space. And Cyrus gets to plop into Abydos. Now, at the completion of this move, of all of the spaces in Ionia, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Persians have 5 of the 7. I have to double check Lesbos and Chios, but I think those are part of the Aegean Islands. That means this shifts from Greek control to Persia control, which means the Greek GOPs go down by 1 and the Persians go up by 1. This is based on control of another province, so that will help. That will help them indeed a good bit there. And I think Ionia is worth 2 income, so that is going to help. And I'm adjusting the tracks on the right side here off camera to denote that change. Once Persia gets control of Pontus, if they're able to do that, they would, in effect, be controlling the territory of Asia Minor, I believe. And they would like to do that. So that's our major move complete. Cyrus is out of movement points. He stands posed to try to cross into Greece itself and cause some problems if that's what he wants to do. With our remaining minor move, what do we want to do? Let me think on this real quick. Okay, with our remaining minor move, we're going to get to move 1 thing. Now, that 1 thing can still try to attack, and it can try to, you know, do something. And I think I do want to try to take Pontus, but the problem is Pontus is kind of a long province here, and the Greeks hold Nicomedia. They also hold Sinope and Trapezus. And if I want to take control of Pontus, I need to have control of the majority of spaces, which means I need to get control of 3 of the spaces. I don't think I have enough movement to really do that. So what I want to maybe do is just set myself up so that I have a better chance of taking Pontus in the next activation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a die. I'm going to activate this light infantry there. Oh, we get 6 movement points. So maybe we can do a little bit more. So what we could do is we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and have 2 left. And then I think garrisons can try to move, but I might need to double check that. In my mind's eye, I figure they probably could. Garrisons may only withdraw if land comets they are stacked with withdraw. Okay, so okay. So this guy would be eliminated, right? So we're at 2 movement points left, and we'll do the same here and eliminate that. So Pontus, I don't think is controlled by anyone, if I try to read that right. I feel like that's probably the case here. Yeah, so it seems like it becomes uncontrolled. Oh shoot! I just came across the rule. I apologize, guys. I'm gonna mess some stuff up. The islands of Lesbos, Chios, and Samos are treated as spaces for control of Ionia. So, shucks, these guys do count. The only thing is, Persia does control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compared to 1, 2, 3. So, Persia still controls Ionia, just we have to keep these guys in mind, and we'll have to deal with them at some point in the time to come. Interesting. I have to keep that in mind. I got to be careful. And it is Thassos, Limnos, and Naxos that are the Aegean islands. So Thassos, Limnos, Naxos. So important distinction there to keep in mind. Okay, so best as I can tell, nobody controls Pontus, but we did take it from the Greeks. They no longer control it, which means they are further reduced. So that's a good enough action for now. So there we go. That's the first activity for the Persians. I don't know that anything could have gone much better for them. They squished some forces. There are some remnant weak garrisons in a couple places. Roads might be a danger here, though we have sort of put a blocking galley force here. So they're either going to have to head to Egypt, which could be a problem, or they try to force pass. So we've got some good control. I think that's a good first move. You know, we've got our good leader threatening Egypt. Cyrus has conquered Ionia, has nearly conquered Pontus, and we still have several activations to go. So next, we will look at the Greek activation. So same thing. There's nothing super special here. We just go to the next activation shit is going to be played. And again, it's the Greek activation. So same thing. They get 2 minors and a major. And you know what they're actually going to do with that major? Well, that we need to find out, because I don't know what their best options truly are at this point. We'll figure that out. We certainly are going to have to react to the Persians, but we want to do our own stuff too. We don't want to just be reacting to the Persians the whole game. But the Greeks have been knocked down quite a peg, so we need to think that through. Alrighty, I'll be right back. Okay, for the Greek activation, this is really rather tough because we have to prepare for the crossing of Cyrus into Greece. He can do it. There's not as much that I can really do to stop him, because I can try to get up in here and try to force a crossing, but I might be sacrificing a galley to do it. So here's what I think I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to do a minor move with this cav, and he gets 2 movement points. So I guess I'm going to get him to Karania. Then what I'm going to do is, boy. I'm going to activate this leader here in Sparta, the Spartan King. He's going to get 7 movement points. We've got some elite guys here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, pick up these guys. 3, 4, 5, pick up these guys. 6, and end up here. So we have an army in Greece collected that does have some cavalry, does have some guys, and that's it. Ooh, oh gosh, I screwed up, guys. I needed to pay a talent for the activation, which I did, and we're supposed to draw an event card. So keep in mind we did the 1 minor, 1 major. We still have a minor move left, and we'll go ahead and we'll draw an event card from the deck. I don't know what this is. This is Mercenaries, hold in hand. You may spend a maximum of 2 talents to hire mercenary units at the cost listed below. And let me make sure that I can even use this as the Greeks, because I think it would be valuable to do so. Let's see. Okay, I don't think there's anything saying that we can't hire mercenaries, so this might be a good time to do that. I think what we'll do is we will spend the 2 talents, and we will put a mercenary cavalry in with this Greek army, and this has 2 benefits. One, that cavalry will likely, I'll have to double check the rules on this, but I believe that the mercenary cavalry can become one of your cavalry at the end of the turn, and this also helps offset any cavalry superiority of Cyrus. So that gives us a little bit of some action. We'll go ahead and play that. We played it right away. We'll put it in the discard pile over to the right. And we get 1 more move, a minor move at that. And gosh, what to do? Well, we need to get our civ points up, that's for sure. We don't want to miss out on that. So I think what we'll do with our other minor move is we will go ahead and turn. This is tough. It's like, is it worth the expansion, or do we try to do some more movement? This is feels like a very weak turn for the Greeks, this action. That we spend 2 more talents, which puts us pretty nearly broke in putting a town in Emporiae in Tarraconensis. That might be a poor choice. But it will help get our civ points up, even if we're losing out on GOP points at the moment. And I think that's all that the Greeks can do this activation. So not much, right? We tried to collect an army We knew we might not get all of the movement points needed to get everyone where they needed to be, but we brought the cavalry in, we hired a mercenary, we organized an army. We hear the great, Shah of the East, Cyrus the Great, has violated the Greek areas in Ionia, and so we are preparing for further conflict. Would have liked to do some activations here in Sicily, and what's unfortunate is that we're basically providing the East a reprieve where we could try to press on Lilybaeum and Sicily to hurt the Carthaginian side of that, but it's just not happening. So we're going to go to the cup now to determine the next action shit. It could be either players, and we pulled another East marker. So next East marker, talent is spent, so the East is now down to 9 talents, and we pull an event card, and let's see. We also get mercenaries. Interesting. I think the East player is going to hold on to this, so I'm going to put this card on their player sheet, and we can decide what we want to do for this one. Yeah, let me think on this. I think what Cyrus is going to want to do is probably seize control of Pontus. That way he gets the territory of Asia Minor, and then with the actual activation may want to be coming into might either wants to clean this up or might cross over into Thrace and start causing some grief. It's really hard to figure out what's going to stop Cyrus at this point, because they have so much potential. Maybe we need to do something with Carthage, but I feel like might as well keep it a rolling. So there you go. So yeah, let me think on this, and we'll come back and execute it. Okay, I think I'm gonna do for this one the major move first, and we're gonna go ahead and use Cyrus, and we'll roll the die. That ended up rolling to be a 2, so +6 is only 8. So we're having 8 movement points, so that's not as many. So we kind of have to think through how we want to do this. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Likely smoosh this guy. Yeah, let's start by doing that. So what we'll do: 1 smush, 2, 3, 4. I should have left this guy behind. And then, what is that guy going to do? Well, I think he's going to try to withdraw, and he'll have 3 movement points with which to do it. So I think he just goes back to here and here. There's a straits here, and I believe you can cross. Let me make sure. I think it's an extra movement point. Yeah, 2. So he would be 1, 2, 3. So then we're stuck here, and let me think. One, two, three, or 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually just 3 because we don't get that last one. So we're down to 5 movement points. We could break down and leave some more leave some more guys behind as a garrison, and I don't mind that idea. Just trying to be careful here. We're going to end up with control of Pontus anyway. It's just a question, do we want to leave anyone behind? But I think we could leave it be for the moment. So we have 5 movement points left. So then I do think it's worth going 1, 2, 3, which would bring us down to 2. I think this guy tries to get away. He gets 2 movement points. So I think he falls back like so. He gets a movement point back, so he has 3 movement points. And we're now we're in Greece proper. Now, because I withdrew in home territory, that actually has a stability effect. Yeah, so Greek stability actually goes down by 1 because of that. What we want to do is keep these guys alive so that we can join them up with our counter army and face Cyrus proper. Oh, man. What do we do here? We've got 3 movement points left. If we denude our force anymore, then we start to have strength problems more than anything. But I don't mind knocking down stability, so we would spend 2 to get to here. They get 2 movement points. They retreat again, get a movement point back. Greek stability goes down again. And then we have 2 movement points left. I mean, we might as well try to come over here, and then does this guy withdraw and take another stability loss? I don't think they want to do that, but I think we ought to try. And he can't move, so there will be a combat here. The numbers are very bad, so 2, 6, still 10 to 1. So 10, 16 shifts. And yeah, he goes smush. And we stop there for the moment. Now, we don't take control of Thrace or anything. And I'm trying to see, is there anything that really concerns us for the moment? I don't think so. So I think we stop there, right? Greece continues to hold the province because if it's a home territory, the enemy actually does have to yeah, there's actually a problem here. Well, okay, so if we're going to take that and take control of it, we have to control more than half the space. So the Greek player still controls Thrace, but it definitely has a problem. I think we're done with that activation, and then we have 2 minors. So a couple of things change once we're done with that specific thing, is we do get Pontus. So we're going to get another GOP, and we're going to control more areas. I'll have to do a recount, I think, of everything eventually at the end of the turn to make sure I got everything right, but we'll figure that out. So we got that. We have 2 minor moves. What I would like to do, I don't think we can take control of Thrace all in one go. We don't have enough. But what I would like to be able to do, I'm going to move. I wish I had. Well, I guess I do have more galleys. So I'm going to use one move to move a galley squadron here. And he's going to go. Well, I'm not even sure if do I even roll for naval movement if I'm just moving a naval movement? I'm not sure that I do. Yeah, they don't have. Yeah, I don't have to worry about the movement cost. So we're gonna get this guy, and he's gonna keep going, keep going, keep going. Based on the path that we're going on, I don't have to stop for anything unless I have to stop there, and I don't think that's the case. Let me just make sure of that. Sorry, guys. I'm playing. I'm learning the game. Okay, so an unoccupied port space, not in its home territory. So it could mean this guy has to stop in Miletus, because I didn't leave a unit there. Granted, I could solve that problem if I did a different minor move first. So maybe that's what I should do here. So I'm going to do one minor move. We're gonna roll 2 movement points. That's all I need. So this guy just goes down to here. Nothing really changes. And then for the second, we would be going tracing from occupied controlled ports along these blue lines of naval movement. And what we're going to end up with is a guy parked right there, I think, is what I want to do. I'm trying to see. The one thing is we don't want to leave that galley there in an enemy port for too long, because there are issues with that, but we'll be able to put a unit in that space. But why we're putting the galley there is you can't cross a strait if a galley is parked in the port space, so on either side of it. So basically, we're just keeping the Greeks from going up and around and trying to sneak aboard. We're putting some protection behind us, and we have a nice steady chain to get up here safely, so we could later move more of our boats like so. So I think that's pretty. I think we're in a pretty good spot from that perspective. So I think that's it for the East activation. So we're going to go back to the cup and see what we get. And we get Greek activation. So Greeks are going to pay their 1 talent to use the activation. And we're going to draw an event card. And this one is a hold in hand. It's another mercenaries. I shuffled the deck. So I don't know why. I better. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. We got some mercenaries. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money to buy more mercenaries, so that is just going to have to do. And let's see. Almost for demonstration purposes, I would really love to first activate the Athenian galleys and have them sort of head out and try to knock these guys down. So it would be, the only problem is we would get stuck in Abydos, probably. But if we did, it would be minor move to go here, here, here. Then to here, we would possibly stop moving. We'd have to roll some dice. And that might have been just enough. Let me double check. I rolled a 7. I'm going to keep referencing the rolls like a crazy person. Okay. Okay, I rolled a 7. The fleet may continue moving because it stopped in an enemy-occupied port. But there's no naval battle. And so these guys will proceed onward, and they will go here, and there will be a naval battle, the elite Athenian Navy versus the Persian Navy. And we'll figure out how to do the naval battle. Let's see. The Persians could allow the moving fleet to pass through, but they wouldn't necessarily want to do that. Oh, interesting. So these guys can try to get away. It's kind of weird. Let me figure this out off camera, guys. Okay, so I think I've adjudicated this appropriately, where we have the I had the Persian Navy. They could withdraw to a nearby port. It seems like they could even go past. They could go past where the Athenians came from. So they came back to Abydos, actually, and we'll put these guys on the bottom just for the sake of it. But then, because these guys are stuck there, I believe they had to roll continuity, and they failed. Yeah, otherwise, after the withdrawal, the moving fleet stops and must roll for continuity. Well, they failed. So the Athenian Navy came out and chased the Persian Navy around to no effect. And so now we have our next set of moves, which I think is going to be a major move. And we are going to select our Spartan King, and we're going to give him a roll. And oof, I rolled a 1, so he only has 4 movement points. That is not good. So we will go 1, 2, 3, pick up this unit, and I actually can't spend the movement to get up here to fight Cyrus, so I'm going to have to just wait there. Which is not good. And then we have our minor move, which, gosh, this is kind of a crappy situation. I don't really like where things stand right now. But I think what we're going to do is we're just going to create some really difficult circumstances for Cyrus in terms of attrition, and we're going to activate this other galley squadron and have them go through Megara, here, 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 and then likewise force something to happen here, and if these guys don't withdraw, they will be cutting off Cyrus, I think, because we're basically blocking the line of communication. I think. I want to say that's the case. So the Athenians have to decide: are they going to fight or not? Now, if they have an opportunity to shut down an Athenian fleet, that might be worthwhile. So maybe we actually we hash it out. To resolve a naval battle, each player totals his battle points and adds the roll of one die. So it's 2 versus 2, effectively. And so we roll the dice. So we're just going to see who wins. This is our first naval battle. So first die roll, it will be the Greeks. That is not good. And second roll is the Persians. Persians won out by 1. The loser eliminates BP at least equal to the difference. Interesting. Is there a flip side to these guys? No. So what happens? Can you take 1 loss? Okay, this means a player must eliminate more BP than the difference if the difference is odd. Okay, and then the winner has to roll a die. And if it is even, and it was, I rolled a 4, he suffers no losses. So the Athenians actually lose a galley. That's not, or the Greeks lose a galley. The Athenians are still around. Yikes. Not good. So that's it for the Greek move. So this is not looking great for the Greeks right now. They're really not doing very well. And so far we've been hyper focused on Greece and Asia Minor, and we haven't done anything with Carthage or the West very much at all. But we're gonna have to figure out how to do something to slow down this unfortunate process that is opening up for us. I'm going to go back to the cup. It could be any player's chit, and we get another East chit. So it's just working out so far that everyone's been getting one after the other. The Persians will pay their 1 talent. They will get a card. It is a play when drawn. Designate any one non-elite on-map leader belonging to another player as being a conspirator to overthrow his government. Remove that leader from the map and reduce that player's stability by 1. Oh my goodness gracious. Wow. Okay, well, it's going to be the Spartan King. Boom. He's knocked off the map and reduced that stability by 1. Greece is not as stable as it was. Oh my gosh. Oh man, that is rough. That is rough. Okay, well, the Persians are feeling pretty good about that. I think Cyrus is thinking about knocking down some doors and attacking that army. We're gonna have to see what can be done about that. So let me think through what we're gonna do with these series of activations. I think right now the Persians are feeling pretty good. They control all of Asia Minor, and they're encroaching on Greece. So yeah, they need to think this through, but we'll come back here and see what's what. Okay, I think what we're just going to do is I'm going to have 2 minor moves first for this activation. We'll roll a die for the first guy, 3 movement points, and that's not quite what I wanted because he's going to go 1, 2, 3. Second minor move, also a light infantry, and Sardis gets 4. I think that's a bit better. We do 1, 2. Well, let's see. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and he lands in that spot right there. Just so we can start projecting power more into Thrace and start to take over that territory. For our major move, we'll go ahead and roll the die for movement. Roll the 4 plus the 6 is 10 movement points for Cyrus. Now, what do you think we want to do here, guys? Do we go for broke and try to take out this Greek army? We have a real big battle for once. I think that's an interesting idea. I would like to try it. Can we achieve our ends without doing that? It's one of those do or die moments, right? If the Greeks continue to withdraw in home territory, they're going to keep losing stability and they're going to start to become in not good shape generally. So they probably want to try to fight and at least maybe slow Cyrus down. So I think, if Cyrus takes 2 movement points to enter, we have ourselves a real combat. Only problem is they just don't have that king, the Spartan king anymore. So there's some challenges with that. So let's move us out to sea. Let's drop our combat marker like so. And what do we get here? Okay, it's actually much better off than we thought. So let's take a look. So combat strength, what are we dealing with? Well, we have our Spartan elites and then a couple heavy infantry. So that's actually pretty good. That's 10, 11, 12, 13 combat factors versus 10. So 13. So actually a little against the Persians. But the difference is the Persians are in really good shape in terms of their leadership. So if we look at it, 13 to 10 is 1 shift. So the Greeks get 1 shift. But by comparison, if we look at, so cavalry is the same. So cavalry doesn't matter, but the leader does matter. The Cyrus has 3 shifts, just being him. So it's really 2 shifts for the Persian, basically. So we'll roll the die. First die will be for the Greeks, and they rolled a 2. Not very good. And then the Persians roll a 1, which is not very good. So I think of the 2 shifts, I think for the 2 shifts, we're going to just want to re-rack them, right? 2 shifts to eliminate these guys so that the Persians don't take any damage. They're pretty far from home. We want to keep Cyrus's army in good shape. And then we're going to do 10% to 10% to the 13, which is going to be 1 BP loss. Yeah, 10%, 1 BP loss. And the Greeks can absorb it, right? Because they have 13, lose 1. They can opt to just lose a light infantry, I think. So there we go. I don't think the Greeks care about retreating, and so this forces Cyrus back. He regroups back to Anus, and spend 2 more movement points. So we were at 8 down to 6 to attack again, and we'll continue the fight, right? So the same logic applies here. The only difference will be that the Greeks now have 12 to uh, 12 to 10, which actually doesn't afford them a shift at all. So now it just becomes 3 shifts for the Persians. So first die roll will be for the Greeks. They rolled a 4, which is actually quite better. And the Persians roll a 6, which is quite good. So if they have 3 shifts, I think the easiest thing right now is to reduce this down to 1 so that the Persians just have to lose a little bit. So 10% of I think how we want this to work. I'm trying to think, like, does it really matter what we lose? And we don't want to lose it off cavalry, I guess. Okay. I think it just comes down to, are they going to retreat to try to only take 50% losses? Yeah, I mean, I think these guys do retreat, so they're gonna, by retreating, we minimize loss down to 5. So that's just what's going to, so 10% here, and we'll show the movement when we're all done. But 10% losses against the 10 points of the Persians is 1. So they're going to eliminate 1 unit of light infantry, just reduce that. And then 50% of what? The 11 is 6. I'm sorry, the 12, my bad, is 6. So we have to lose 6 battle points. I don't think we want to lose the elites if we can help it, and we don't want to lose the cav. So I think what we have to do is lose some heavy infantry, and that sucks. That sucks. So then these guys will wind up here. So they took the retreat, and then Cyrus, which I'll just use Army A, are now here. And have Pella under threat, which is not good. Now they won the combat, and I think we can keep moving. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4. So we still have 6 movement points left. Oh my gosh. All right, I need to take a pause and think what we're going to do with our 6 remaining victory points, because we could, or movement points, we could try to head south or something, though the naval stuff takes us a while. Probably still makes sense for us to focus on shutting down Pella, one of the capitals. I think it's one of the capitals for this scenario. I can double check that as well. I'm sure you guys are just loving my very disorganized play this time. Very disorganized. Okay, Pella is not a capital. So Athens is a capital, Tarentum is a capital, but not Pella, which is interesting. So if we take Pella, it's just to take Pella. It doesn't do that much more for us. But I like the idea of having free reign. Just we've shut down the Greeks so badly over here. So I think we would do another 1-2. Now we're down to 4 movement points, and we have to deal with the town being involved as well. And so we have to decide, basically, do we want to have the siege have a battle outside the town or hide inside the town, in which case we don't get cavalry, but then neither do the Persians, and so we would be left with 7-6, and that would be a little bit better maybe than 9-6. I'm not sure it'll really matter, but the town might help us. So I need to think about that for a second. I'll do that off camera, and we come back. We'll go through maybe our first siege campaign battle, which is really just a battle involving a town. Okay, so the way this is going to work, I think the Greeks will use the town. So they do. We're going to ignore the cav for this, but we will have the 6 total battle points, and the Persians will have 7. Now that basically narrows a lot of what we're dealing with for battle calculation. So I believe just 7-6 is no shifts, and then the shifts that you get for the leader are actually reduced. So instead of getting 3 shifts, the Persians are just going to get 1 shift, and then there's the possibility of siege expertise. So the Greek player really can't afford it, where the Persian player feels like he can. So normally this would be a secret bid. In the future, I will do some die rolling to determine what happens, but I think what the Persians will do is they'll just spend 2 talents, and the Greeks will bluff and not spend any because they really can't afford it. They still have to spend to use their remaining activation markers. And that's going to leave the Persians with siege expertise of 1 shift. So they have 2 shifts. So going into this combat, we have the two shifts. So let's see what we get in terms of the die roll. First die roll will be for the Greeks again. They rolled just a 1, which is unfortunate for them, and the Persians roll a 2, so 2 shifts. Well, I think what they're going to do is they'll go ahead and bump this up to 40% losses. So the Greeks definitely lose. The Persians are going to take their 10% loss on, let's see. When we do the siege battle, the cavalry I don't think can take losses. So this would be on 7. So 10% of 7 is 1. We're going to go ahead and just remove, well, I'll do it this way. We'll flip this unit so that another light infantry is lost. And then we'll have 40% to 6 BP, which is 2. So we have to take 2 losses, and we might need to take that on the town, just because that is pretty gnarly. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have a 2 loss on the town, which means it
goes down one wall point, effectively. And I believe we do not, or we can't retreat, and that's the end of combat. So again, we get into the situation where the Persian regroups and can spend another 2 movement points to try again. And the same things are going to apply. So we're going to keep hammering it until we knock out this whole army. So now it becomes 6 BPs to 5, which is 0 shifts. We get 1 shift for Cyrus, and then we'll go ahead and spend 2 talents for siege expertise, make sure that the Greeks can't stop us, and we have 2 shifts. We'll go ahead and roll the dice again. Greeks go first. They rolled a 4. That's actually pretty good. And then the Persians roll a 6. So let's see. I think they want to spend those 2 reducing this down. And 20% losses on 6 is just 1 loss. So we lose yet another light infantry. But then we have 60% losses on 5 battle points. We basically have 1 for the 1 wall point, or we get each wall point is 1 BP. So we basically have 5. So we're going to lose 60% of 5. That is 3. Not a really good way to lose all that 3. So we could spend out and lose our elite. All right, I need to read the rules a little more closely to see how to adjudicate this. We'll be back. Okay, so I needed to fix a couple of things. I decided to reverse time a little bit just because I think things are getting really bad for the Greeks, and they probably should have done this. We had the cavalry withdraw and came down to here, and so when Cyrus came, it would have been just the Spartans defending in here, and so when they take the 3 BP loss, we can't bring the town any further below this, what it is here. So all 3 points have to come from the elite, and you have to take all 3. So we flip it, and then we still have to remove it. So here's the couple of problems. The Spartans are destroyed. That's very bad. We can potentially rebuild the Spartans in Sparta, but per the rules, we're going to suffer a stability loss. So that sucks. And then the town is actually captured. So as we remove this combat, the Greek town is gone to be replaced by an Eastern controlled town in the middle of Greece that still has a -1 sort of like a breach. Cyrus's army goes there. We're going to move that out of the way. And that is just not very good for the Greeks. Not good. Not good. Not quite good at all. Now, we still don't see the... I'm pretty sure that the Persians do not control any of these territories yet still. So this is merely a momentary, advantage for the Greeks. But their homeland is under threat. All of their colonies, all out here, there's plenty of Greek units on the board, but they're just all very far away from home, and just could not have guessed that this juggernaut of an army led by a very good leader would be involved in the combat. Now, here's something that I should have watched out for. There is a leader loss rule. So we've fought now a couple different battles with Cyrus. We should have been rolling each time there was an actual die roll in combat to see if you died. You only die if you roll, your leader dies if you roll 2 6s. So that was an 11 just now. So no death, no death, no death. 2 5s, but not 2 6s, so no death. And I think we're just going to roll one more. Okay. So Cyrus has not died on any of those combats that we've conducted. We'll sort of catch ourselves up there. And I'm going to go ahead and move these guys off to the player mat to show Army A. Just got to the point where it's easier to use the Army counter. And that is it for that activation. So pretty intense. Next chit comes up is actually another East chit, which is allowed. In this case, if we look at the order, you can't see it, but as I can see it. So the Persians spend another talent, and they can go again. I need to think about what they're going to do, because now would be a great time to maybe start pushing towards Athens or continue to move forces into Thrace to take control of Thrace. So I could see any of those being worthwhile actions to take here. Need to think through that. We're honestly at a point where you could almost see an automatic victory occur if we would have to take Tarentum, but Greece just being so down in the dumps is pretty catastrophic. So I'll think on this. Okay, I went ahead and actually just did the whole Persian activation. I used the minor moves to move some infantry into Thrace, and then I used Cyrus's army to come down here. We ended up eliminating the Greek cavalry, though we took some losses ourselves, and then I kind of moved them back up to Thrace just to ensure that we have some consistency of what we control and what we're connected to, because the Greeks are going to go last, and I just don't know what they're going to do. So rather than, like, we were maybe going to go try to siege down Athens, but the problem is we would still have to fight for it, and we run the risk of losing our immortals. And I think we're good here. We so thoroughly depleted the Greeks that we're playing in their backyard already, and have done a lot. So I think we could wait to see what happens next. Yeah. Let me make sure. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, they should have pulled a event card and I didn't. So, we have. So yeah, I should have drawn an event card after we paid for that talent, right? Because we've played 6 activation markers so far. There are 4 cards that have come up, so that we should have drawn one, and it is a barbarian invasion. So this might be silly now that I've done all of this, because this might really matter. We're going to roll 2d6 and consult the invasion table. So I rolled a 7, and I believe we're going to use the special invasion table. I'm doing stuff out of order, guys. I'm so sorry. This is a mistake I've made, but this is a barbarian invasion. We rolled a... Oh, interesting. 13.4. Okay. So by special roll, we should be rolling 1 die. My bad. I will roll the 1 die. We rolled a 4. That is Eastern Gauls. Eastern Gauls. So, okay, so we're just going to have to look up the rule book for Eastern Gauls and see how this is going to work. Player rolling this receives a Gallic. Oh, this is just bad for the Greeks. Holy crap. Player rolling this receives a Gallic barbarian army in either Sarmatia or Scythia. So Sarmatia or Scythia. Scythia is one option. So roll 2 dice. Wow, that's very, very strong. So we get a 1/5 barbarian leader and 9. This is a gigantic army. 9 barbarian infantry strength points. In Sarmatia or Scythia, I think we want. So what we want to do, I think, is. Okay. Okay, so this almost doesn't matter. Okay, so this is the army. I rolled high for its. It would have been a barbarian army. I would have put it in Scythia. It would have invaded the Cheronese, but I would have had to use a major move to do it, and I used my major move to do other things this turn, obviously. And so this guy would simply go away at the end of the turn. So I'd have to, I'll put him up there just to do it, but he's going to disappear at the end of the turn, so he kind of doesn't really matter. So, oh well, there we go. Barbarian invasion out of the way. This leads the final activation for the Greeks. Again, we've done nothing in Sicily. Absolutely nothing. They pay a talent. They're nearly broke. Pull an event card. Famine and drought. Jesus. Roll a d6. We rolled a 2. So the famine and drought table is somewhere amongst these. Oh my god. I rolled a 2. It's Greece. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. Reduce the stability of the player who controls that territory by 1. The Greek stability is very low. And now the Greeks get to go. What can the Greeks do? It's a very good question. Very good question indeed. I'll need to think about this. Okay, well, we are in a tricky position as the Greeks. I used minor moves to move heavy infantry into this stack here, and I moved some galleys down here, and then I did a naval move. We had it's a heavy infantry and a light infantry moved from Tarentum. They embarked and navigated. We went to this naval transport point. We rolled a die. They did not have to stop moving. They ran it into Rhegium, and then launched an attack into Pella and sort of captured the city immediately. Apparently, if a reduced town, not the city, a town, if you come into a reduced town and there's no defender, you instantly capture it. So we'll call that a mistake on the Persians' part, but I think this is one of those situations where, like, the Greeks really kind of need it right now. They need a Persian mistake because the Persians have just run roughshod over the Greeks heavily and have really hurt their ability to operate. Now, modest gains all around, and in fact, we've seen nothing happen over here. Now, that doesn't mean, like, in terms of the historical simulation, there's not that nothing happened over here. It's just nothing of significance that we would see at this scale. There might be skirmishing in Sicily, but nothing major, though the Greeks are collecting their military force in central Sicily, hoping to reinforce their position over time. But the Greek homeland is under direct threat still from there. And actually, you know what? My bad. I'm going to undo that one move. We need to get the Athenians home. I kind of forgot about that, so we got to get them moving. They would move to here, and there would be a combat. And the naval combat is a draw. Let's see what happens with a draw. Okay, so we would roll for continuity. We would actually fail continuity. Which is going to be really bad because I think this screws up. If it does move, the non-option. Something bad is going to happen to the Athenians. We wanted to get them home to Athens itself, and we needed to come through here. And we fought a stalemated naval battle, but there's nowhere to go. And so, because the Athenians rolled a 1, the Persians rolled a 2, but the difference in strength brought on a stalemate. This might be just bad because they might go poof in the attrition phase. That's what I'm worried about right now. But okay, well, overall, still a bad situation for the Greeks. I'm not sure there's anything that can be done to fix that problem now. But each turn provides the possibility of sort of a re-racking of the situation. Cyrus dies, he gets old. He's conquered Asia Minor. He's pushed into Thrace. So there's a Persian a Persian presence in Thrace. But I think that's the end of the activation phase. So yeah, we're going to look at the attrition and isolation phase next and kind of see where things stand. Okay, I'm looking at the attrition and isolation phase. Everybody is fine. You got to remember that Tarentum is currently acting, as opposed to the normal rule, as a Greek home area. But these guys can all, well, units in towns and cities are fine all the time anyway, but everyone else can trace pretty easily back to there or somewhere in Greece that is still controlled by Greece itself. And again, right now, technically, Greece still controls Thrace, so that we didn't have enough movement and we didn't use it enough to actually occupy one more space of Thrace, which was kind of my mistake as the Persians, I guess. But the one issue is the Athenians stuck off the coast trying to get through, the area that would be known as Gallipoli eventually. And so, because he is in a non-friendly port during this phase, he is actually eliminated. And the Greeks lose another stability point. They're now down to 0, which means they'll go into unrest very soon. So that's a nightmare for the Greeks again. And then we're going to do the victory phase. And so here is where we need to kind of do a count up of what everybody's points are at this point. And I have to do some calculation because while I did try to keep pretty good track of what was on the map from the time we started to the end, it's kind of gotten to the point where I have to do a fresh recount just to make sure we do those counts appropriately for victory point purposes. But I believe the Persians are going to rack up some victory points. So let me kind of organize that, and then we'll come back and I'll kind of talk through the actual results of the calculation. Okay, so I think I've calculated things correctly. As it stands, the Greeks are at 11 civilization points. The reduced town does not count for anything in Pella, and 12 geographic objective points, GOPs. The Persian player, by comparison, has 12 civilization points and 19 geographic objective points, quite a lot. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that, like, we're combining Carthage and Persia, but it is still quite a lot. And so that leaves the Persian player, the East player, ahead in both categories. So the combined total gain victory points is 5 for the Eastern player. So we'll mark that on the VP track off camera here. Important thing is it's 5-0. 5-0. So off to a good start for the Persians, 100%. because the Greeks were the faction that lost or had the least victory points gained, meaning none, they lose another stability. So Greece is now in unrest. Not great. The play order determination, the player with the least victory points will probably get to go first. So what that will mean is for the cup, we'll be loading it up, but the play order for turn 2, once we get there, will be Greek activation first, then East, then we'll pull from the cup. And so that's it for turn 1, guys. I think this is one worth a little bit of post-action, commentary. I think the present situation with the Greeks is very poor, very poor. I don't think it's hard to understand. Was there anything I could have done better as the Greeks, knowing that the first activations, I mean, I just don't know what we could have done that much better. I mean, maybe we should have moved some guys around a little bit more first. I think what really killed it was the Greeks losing their king. He might have made the difference in terms of being able to do a lot more to fight off Cyrus the Great. I mean, I think that's just one aspect of it that we'll have to deal with. It's the question then really is, can they bounce back? And that is what is going to be the tricky thing. We're gonna have all kinds of problems, I think, as the Greeks going into turn 2. That's as much as I can really say about it right now. I think, I'm sure there's some incentive to, like, okay, you're going to use an activation to activate the Persian units, but I could just keep following things up with Cyrus over and over and over again. I really had no reason not to. His army was pretty strong. He had cavalry advantage, where a lot of these isolated Greek units don't have cavalry, so you get a lot of capability for that mixed arms. They don't have heavy infantry, but the light infantry was good enough, right, for a lot of what we were dealing with. So they could just go in. Pontus was easy to pick up. Ionia was pretty easy, not too terribly difficult to pick up. And then just crossing into Thrace, I couldn't figure out, like, well, what's a better way to do it? Because if you try to block, and I tried to get some galleys up here to, like, block the crossing. Well, it just means that they can cross through this way. So there's not a whole lot keeping the Eastern player from being able to get over there, right? Now, granted, they might have had to stop here, but it just didn't necessarily work out that way, I don't think. And so I think there's definitely something I have to examine, this starting position in the future. Like, if I replay this scenario, like, what do you do to keep Cyrus out of here? Now, I didn't push as hard. The thing is, like, I could be pulling more reinforcements over here to take control of Thrace. That might jeopardize my control of Ionia, and really I need to knock these islands out just so we don't have to worry about the coast as much. We still have the potential for some backfield stuff at Rhodes, but it definitely felt like Cyrus was the juggernaut. Now, it is Cyrus the Great. He's very strong. He didn't get quite as far, historically, because he didn't try to invade Greece directly, I don't think. He took over Ionia and Pontus. I think those were the things that he did accomplish, but he didn't push as far as we did. And I mean, we took Pella, right? We were in Macedonia. We just didn't have enough set up to keep it necessarily. And I do think that the Persians want to take control of Thrace before they move on. So what's interesting is, like, you can definitely try to make something happen where you take control of large swaths of territory in a generation. But when you really look at like what was gained in Cyrus's lifetime, right, for this turn, the Persian Empire took over the rest of Asia Minor, predominantly all of it. There's still some islands out here that the Greeks are sitting out on. And there's a major Persian presence in Thrace. Not all of it. They don't control all of Thrace, but there is territory that is now owned by Persia effectively, and is their sort of launch pad to fighting in the rest of Greece. And everywhere else was pretty quiet. The Greeks, okay, they built a town out here. That's going to be important for their economy to try to bounce back. But we didn't see anything happen with Carthage. Um, and I would wonder, should there be a special rule that says one activation marker, at least one activation marker per turn, the East player has to activate both an Eastern army and a Carthaginian army, right? So that you at least have to activate the Carthaginians. But so much was happening with Cyrus that there was really, it felt like no reason to. And the Greeks were too busy reacting to Cyrus to do anything like attempt to take over Sicily. And so going into this next turn, the Eastern Empire stability is pretty good, and by comparison, the Greeks are at unrest, and there's going to be some consequences to that effectively. So I think there's just a lot of challenge that has to be surmounted here as the Greeks, and I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. And they don't even have that many heavy infantry on the board anymore. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, did we really go from 10 to 6? Did we eliminate 4? Is that what actually happened? Did we get rid of 4 heavy infantry? I guess that must be what it was. I have to do some double checking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yeah, I guess they just have 6 heavy infantry on the board. Not great. So when we look at the manpower table, the Greeks won't be able to field as many heavy infantry anyway. They have less territory. They have less civ points to worry about more unrest, and they won't have as strong of an economy to build more units back. So they're definitely on the back foot, and it's going to be tough to figure out how they get out of this pickle. But we'll figure that out in the next video. I'm sure somewhere along the way I maybe have gotten stuff wrong. If you're an expert in the game and you have any advice or comments to impart to me, please do so. Leave that in the comment section down below. I will do the best that I can. I will say, yes, this map feels really congested. If it was blown up to be twice as big or 50% bigger, that would probably help a lot with the congestion. But there's just a lot of stuff all through here that we're picking through. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying this video. I'm sorry I'm so clumsy with this game. I'm still trying to get the rules really down pat in actual play. How do you use navies, the galley squadrons most appropriately? Figuring all that out. I think it was really smart of the Eastern player, that part of my brain, to have all these occupation of these ports, because it meant that we could zoom very fast, where if you're dealing with these uncontrolled or enemy controlled ports, that could slow you down. And I think that's maybe the key thing that the Greeks need to figure out. How do they stop what's happening? It may be already too late. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. See you in the next one. Keep on gaming.